the Act of Proclamation of Independence of the Filipino People. So, who is the author of the proclamation?
Ambrosio Rienzales Bautista, also known as Dong Boyong, was born on December 7, 1830 at Binyan, Laguna. He lived until December 4, 1903, at the age of 72 years old. He studied law at the University of Santo Tomas and acquired his degree of being a lawyer in the year 1865. After that, he went to Manila to practice law and gave free legal advice to the poor. But Mr. Bautista is known for being the author of the Proclamation of Independence. He was the man who read the Proclamation of Philippine Independence at Kawit, Cavite.
Then, who is the initiator of the proclamation?
Although the actual author of the proclamation was Ambrosio Bautista, the initiator of Philippine independence that led to the making of the proclamation was General Emilio Aguinaldo. Emilio Aguinaldo was born on March 22, 1869, Kawit, Cavite. He was the second of the youngest of 8 children of Carlos Aguinaldo and Trinidad family. The Aguinaldos came from a wealthy and influential family because of their father was Gobernadorcillo for several terms. Emilio Aguinaldo joined the Katipunan choosing the name Magdalena. Emilio was elected president. Emilio ran for presidency of the Philippine Commonwealth but lost to Manuel L. Quezon. Emilio devoted this time to the cause of veteran revolutionaries until his death at the age of 94 on February 6, 1964.
So, when did Emilio declare Philippine independence?
After winning several victories against the Spaniards, Emilio declared Philippine independence on June 12, 1898.
Let's discuss historical context.
Do you know, the Spanish-American War in 1898 ultimately altered the course of Philippine history. In 1898, after the Americans won the Battle of Manila Bay, Aguinaldo returned to the Philippines with their assistance and proclaimed the resumption of the revolution against Spain. General Emilio Aguinaldo declared independence from Spain on June 12, 1898 at his home in Kawit, Cavite. This was after he had won a number of battles against the Spaniards.
What is the contents of the document?
The document talks about the desire for freedom from Spanish rule, the sacrifices that were made, and the revolution that followed.
Is the document a primary source?
This document is a primary source since the author who read the document during the proclamation was present.
What caused this document to be written?
The Act of Proclamation of Independence of the Filipino People was written as General Emilio Aguinaldo believed that it would inspire the people to fight more eagerly against the Spaniards and at the same time lead the foreign countries to recognize the independence of the country.
Let's now focus on purpose and objectives of the document.
The text commissioned by General Emilio Aguinaldo and written by Ambrosio Gonzales Bautista is titled The Act of the Declaration of Independence. Its purpose is to formally declare the independence, sovereignty, and autonomy of the Philippines, not just to its citizens but also to the other countries, more so to its neighbors. Its next objective is to continuously ignite the passion and patriotism of its people, in line with its next objective of never forgetting the people that are sacrificed for the freedom that they gain. With these two combined, it always reminds the people that their freedom and independence are not free. In fact, the costs are too high, with the loss of thousands of brave soldiers and millions of oppressed citizens. And last, although it's a shame for what's to come in the future, is to give gratitude to the United States for the help that it gave to defeating the Spaniards and helping us gain freedom and sovereignty.
Let's discuss the analysis of the document.
In analyzing the document on the Declaration of Philippine Independence, historical truths can be revealed. The first one is that the document refers to the general revolutionary sentiment of that period, which means that it narrates the view and attitude of the Filipinos towards the revolutionary period at that time. The proclamation also gives us the impression on how the victorious revolutionary government of Aguinaldo historizes the struggle for independence because it mentioned the oppressions we had to overcome for independence. Additionally, there were mentions of past events that were seen as important turning points of the movement against Spain, like the unjust execution of Rizal Combursa and Cavite Mutiny, which are the results of the abuses of officials and friars all throughout the colonization of Spain in the Philippines. However, the Katipunan as the pioneer of the revolutionary movement was only mentioned once towards the end of the document. Katipunan's foundation, Bonifacio, and his co-founders were also left out. Hence, it still exudes the politics and biases of who is in power because the major components of KKK were being left out, although it contributed a great deal to the existence of the Act of Proclamation of the Philippine Independence.
Lastly, let's proceed to the significance of the document.
The proclamation was very remarkable to those Filipinos who suffered under the hands of Spaniards. Until now, it still gives significance to the way of living of every Filipino. We owe them our freedom. The proclamation of Philippine independence gave a big impact to the Filipinos. It showed how determined the Filipinos were to gain our freedom. Emilio Aguinaldo thought that it was necessary to declare the independence. He believed that such a move would inspire the people to fight for their independence. Even though the Philippines is not a crime-free and poverty-free, we are indeed fearless enough to face these growing problems of our country. The proclamation will forever remind us to never abuse the independent and for us to use it for good, not for worse. The proclamation of Philippine independence has great contribution for us to experience the freedom of being prisoners in our own country. We already have all the rights to vote, rights to express our opinion, rights to choose our religion, and also I can add the freedom from fear. An example of it is that people nowadays can now curse or criticize the government without having the feeling of fear. We can now say anything, express everything that our minds and hearts feels or says.
Let us teach our people again to be proud that they are Filipinos. Let us teach them to realize anew that being a Filipino means having as rich and noble a heritage of language, culture, patriotism, and heroic deeds as any nation on earth. Let us teach a steadfast faith in divine providence, a stable family institution, the unhampered enjoyment of civil liberties, the advantages of constitutional government, and the potentials of a rich and spacious land.